Alright, this time looking at a game that's a little more action heavy in Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. This is a sequel to a game that, kind of came and went, I guess. I mean, the first game did pretty well, but the sequel was met with a little more disdain, I guess you could say. So, this is pretty early on in the game. It's like the second place you get to. And, the thing about the first game and this game too is like it's a big emphasis on using the Force powers. As you can see, I'm just sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So the first game in particular was a big focus on using your Force powers in the destructive environments. Like it was early stages of Havoc physics and really impressive tech at the time, where they touted all this realistic destruction you could do. And unfortunately, most of that was gone in the sequel. Like, there's still a lot of destructive elements in this sequel, but the thing they focused on this time around is having fewer enemy types and having specific strategies to how to beat them, because the first game was a little more hack and slash, and you can kind of just use your powers and just blast through the game. But this one, they wanted to add a little more strategy to how you would take down everybody. So, you play as Starkiller, who is the secret apprentice to Darth Vader, who in the first game ends up switching to the light side, and he ends up dying at the end of the first game. So, spoiler alert. So this is the sequel where, he might be a clone, he might not. That's the thing they were kind of leaning on there, but you never really get a definite answer. It's safe to assume he probably was a clone. So the thing about this game is, to me, it looks better, it plays better. Like, everything is way more fluid, the combat's better, using your powers feels a lot better. But the story is very short. Like, it's like a 3 to 4 hour story versus like the 8 to 10 hour story in the first game. And you don't visit as many planets. There's like 4 locations in this game versus like, almost double that in the second game. And people were disappointed. The story ends on a cliffhanger, which to me is the biggest disappointment, because it's a huge cliffhanger and it's actually super interesting, and we're never gonna get a third game, especially now with Disney controlling everything. And this will just be one of those ones that was kind of forgotten. And I don't think anyone thinks this is like a bad game. It's just mediocre compared to the first one. Even the first one got only a little above mediocre reviews, but it was sold really well, and I love the first game. It's one of my favorite Star Wars games, and I was so excited when it was coming out. But so these red guys is kind of an example of the combat. Like, you can see these guys, some of these guys you can't use your Force powers on, you have to use more physical attacks. So like the guys in the red armor that I've been fighting, I mostly just go for the grabs with them, because it's kind of the best tactic to use, because you can't hit them with Force powers. They're like Force acolytes, basically, so they know how to defend against it. And then there are other guys that are really good at physical, and you gotta use your Force powers and things like that. And the giant robots all kind of have their own strategy. Like, the ones that shoot the missiles, you can kind of just grab the missiles with your Force powers and throw them back, but I like to just use the lightsaber throw on all of them, because it's the most surefire way to take them down. This one is a little hectic. There's kind of a lot going on. But I always thought the second one looked really nice, and this one you get 2 lightsabers, where in the first game you get 1, and you can kind of get different crystals to add different abilities to them. Like, the green restores my health with kills, and the blue restores my Force with kills. And early on, it's definitely the crystals you want to use. And these, like, concrete guys are the worst. They just keep freezing you. Yeah, so honestly, I think the adding different strategies with fewer enemies was one of the things that hurt the game, but to me was one of the things I liked about it. Like, some of the combat situations, especially your first time through, because it's definitely one of those New Game Plus games where you go through with all of your abilities and you can just do whatever you want. But the first time through, you definitely have to rely on the strategy of how to dispatch with specific enemies, and it can be a real pain. And I mean, one problem is, like, boss battles in this game are all pretty easy. There's like one really hard boss battle, which is the one at the end of this stage, and then all the rest of the game are kind of a joke. Like, at the end of the first game, you fought Vader, and if you chose the light side ending, you fought the Emperor, or if you chose the dark side, you fought Vader again. And the second time you fought Vader, he was almost impossible. Like, the boss battles in the first game were so hard, and in this one is, you know, there's just no strategy to it. You kind of just go in with your sabers and just keep hitting them. And I mean, the ending to the game is real lackluster, but I really liked it. And like the end of the first game is basically setting up the rebellion. Like, this takes place between episodes 3 and 4, and the first game is you helping establish the rebellion. And then in this one, you like end up capturing Vader at the end of the game, and then just like you cut off his hand and stuff, and you capture him, and then it just ends. Like, they were definitely setting up a sequel that will never get made, and it's so unfortunate. But this is a game I still throw on every now and then. Like, some of the things they added, like you can dismember stormtroopers and stuff like that. It was kind of a big deal at the time, because the only other Star Wars game I can think of that features dismemberment is like Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast. But the lack of destruction in this game compared to the first game was a little bit of a bummer. But I mean, to me, the upgrade in graphics was, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but that's why I always assumed that there was the downgrade in the physics. But, you know, that the physics wasn't what made the game to me, and it's not what I'm looking for in the Star Wars game. What I'm looking for is a story. And I can understand the people saying the short length of the game is a problem, but I think the story's good, and the length of the game, to me, just makes it feel like a movie and like movie length. And there's not a Star Wars game out there that focuses on using the Force powers as much as the Force Unleashed games. But I could easily have seen the Jedi Knight series, like if it was still going to this day, kind of evolving into this. I mean, it is more of a hack and slash game with a little bit of strategy, so it's not too difficult to see that series becoming that as well. But there's a lot of cinematic flourishes in this game that I really appreciate, like even all these camera angles and stuff. But you know, the Force Unleashed games are definitely worth checking out, both of them, and you can get them both pretty cheap nowadays. And they actually had some really good DLC for both games, which to me, they got a little lazy with the DLC in the sense that in the first game it was cool, in the second game it just seemed lazy, where they, like, you know, obviously the point of the story is the light side ending, but they do have dark side endings in both games. Or actually, I don't know if there was a dark side ending in this one. I think there is. It's been a while since I played the end of this one. I don't remember exactly the ending, but I'm pretty sure there's dark side endings in both games. The first one for sure. But the DLC is like what would happen if you know, went to the dark side and the story continued. Like in the first game, you went and hunted down Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker as the Emperor's new apprentice. And in this one, it's kind of a continuation of that, where you go hunt down Princess Leia on Endor, who's now a Jedi. Sorry, the volume on the video here is... trying to skip it, it doesn't let me, but for some reason the video volume's different from the gameplay volume. I turned it all down, but I guess we're just gonna have to watch it. Oh, and I should note that the actor, Sam Witwer, who is the voice and likeness of Star Killer, and I really like him as an actor. He was on the American version of the Being Human show, and I really like the show. I think he's great as the character of Star Killer, especially in this one. Alright, but that's gonna be The Force Unleashed 2. Should check it out. I mean, I'm sure you heard a lot of bad things, but I think it's a Star Wars game worth playing. And the first one, the second one, play them both, and yeah, collectible. But definitely check them out, and thanks for watching my series so far. There's gonna be more, so just stick around.